Attention, coureur! Here we go.
Let's take advantage of this.
I'm Mitch Docker, and this is Life in the Peloton's Race Radio. Over to you.
Should we start proper, Stu?
Let's do it.
This is Life in the Peloton's Race Radio, the first episode of 2025. We're delighted to be here. I'm Harry, and this is Stu.
It is Stu.
And we've also got a very special guest with us on our first podcast, Mitch Docker.
Our new boss.
Well, here we go, boys. Yeah, I get to see how the show is made. This is exciting, isn't it? We're all back together, you could say.
Definitely. Well,
Yeah.
we're actually, our idea for this first podcast, Mitch, is that we wanted to turn the tables on you and we wanted to interview you. So let's start with the first question. We'll get into what the show is later, but can you remember when you first met us?
I think it was... I could be tragically wrong here. Was it about 6 months ago, was it?
Yeah.
Was it any earlier than that? No, look, it was a while ago, and it was 2018 Giro, second rest day. Is that right? Am I on the money?
No, spot on, yeah.
I can't remember the town. I was going to look it up before this pod because I thought you might ask me something like that, but I was already bent in half by that point, and then I continually got completely sawn in half the next few days. But it was a nice break in that Giro because as those races get a little bit sort of ingrown, you could say, you sort of get ancestral with the team and what you're doing and how you're feeling. That's all you care about. And you guys sort of broke me out of that one afternoon, pulled me away, and we had a few laughs on some shoddy balcony in some tiny hotel.
Yeah.
As far as I remember.
Yeah, that's bang on. Stu took a nice picture of you as well, up on that balcony where you did look pretty tired. To give context, and I guess it's why it makes sense, is because back then we were making a little YouTube series called Race Radio, where for a season Stu and I and our cameraman, we drove a camper van to all the races in Europe, and Mitch was so kind as to give us an interview. I think you were one of our first stars, shall we say, on the show.
Very, very loose. I was a rider in the bunch, so yeah, call it
Not
that.
at all.
I wasn't some crowd watching it. Nice.
And so Race Radio back then was our idea of trying to tell the fans' eye view of bike racing, and was to really get in amongst it and, stand on the cobbled climbs in the classics and go to the Giro and park up and just enjoy what it is to be a cycling fan. And really that spirit's never left Stu and I. That series ended after only a year. We were cancelled in our prime. But like a phoenix from the ashes, we started a pod last year, and Mitch and Life in the Peloton have signed us, so we're really happy to be here. We love the pod. Stu, anything to add beyond before I go too far down the gushing avenue?
No, I think gush on, Harry. It's like it definitely was a special moment for me. So it's nice, nice circularity to be back here now.
Definitely that 2019 Tour Down Under. We spent some time together as well. I don't know if you recall, we actually filmed you getting a haircut in a car park. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I got the speed stripes put in. I think he was the same barber. He was the same barber that shaved my head and Lockie's head and our nose off
so
to raise a bit of money for the bushfires a few years ago. And that was a great link, actually, because we needed a hairdresser spot, and I was like, I know just the guy. He cut my hair here a couple of years ago. So we've sort of stayed in contact that whole time, and it's been a fun little journey. And I think that's sort of been the premise of maybe this coming together again. It's like, I think we missed each other a bit, didn't we? I had a year off last year, and I got to hear you from afar when you started the pod, and it was really great sort of sitting on the sidelines and listening to the fun you guys had, and that's the fun we've always had together, and probably Harry and I more so, but listening to you, Stu, as well, it's just that's what I've loved about your pod, but also working together over the years, is that we all love cycling in a really enthusiastic way, and you guys have got so much knowledge about it, but it's not in an over-the-top way or any kind of, I know more than you kind of way. It's this fun love, spreading the love of cycling, having a laugh about the ridiculous stuff that happens in this sport, because at the end of the day, It's so ridiculous sometimes. And I love that you guys point that out. It's like, hey, let's just get the reality here. So that's what I've been really loving about your show. So it's cool to have you guys back on board, or to be back together. Let's say that.
Bring the band back together. Talking about the Tour Down Under, why is it the greatest bike race in the year? Is it the greatest bike race in the year?
I think that's probably the end bit there. Is it? Is it viewed as that? I don't know.
Can we give our perspective?
Who said that?
Because we were lucky enough to go once, as we said. Like, in terms of the fan experience, we think it is the greatest bike race in the world, because it all pretty much you can stay in Adelaide the whole time, so there's no moving around, no chasing the race. All the riders stay in the same hotel, so if you're a real chamois sniffer, you can just park yourself at the entrance and just watch the riders go by.
Touch a lot of riders, yeah.
And just sniff away, yeah.
You can ride out to all the stages. There's so much going on with all the brands. Like we saw last week, Lockie Morton was racing a crit in a car park. I mean, you don't get that at the Giro d'Italia, I'll tell you that for free. And then also you get to see riders rock up, overweight, unfit. Maybe not so much these days, but it certainly was when we went a few years ago. I remember a certain Alberto Bettiol had been overindulging on the Christmas ham, I think. And yeah, we just love it. Also, I remember when we did, you can get sunstroke really easily. So
I wouldn't recommend doing that.
No, on the Willunga Hill stage, we did a ride out, and I had to get a taxi home.
Yeah.
It's far, that ride, especially if you sit out there and drink beers. It's a brutal ride home.
Yeah. We drinking beers, eating crisps, and that was about it. So it was a combination of sort of suboptimal factors that combined. Harry just turned to me. He's like, I can't go any further.
It is a really lovely race on the other side, I have to admit. And as a rider too, it is fun. I feel like it's less fun now for those riders, but I feel like it's less fun being pro full stop. So maybe it's still the best of the rest. And now being on the other side, there's just so much going on. I never realised there's so much going on. The whole city is just like full of pop-ups. There's pubs, just people going there. There's parties going on. It's just it's a ruckus the whole week.
Amazing atmosphere. I loved it. And you're hard pushed to get a bad coffee as well. It's not like when you're the Giro, the Tour de France. Everyone's like, oh, is coffee better in France or Italy? And you're like, no, it's not. It's bad in both of those places.
Good pub scene in Adelaide too. Solid, strong pub scene. I really did a full recce this year and made sure I was testing them all out.
Did you complete the Cooper's challenge that we heard you set on the communique last week?
I fell one short.
So close.
To be fair, it was 23 Coopers, and we worked it out at the end. We pushed away just in that challenge over $240, and then we all started realising, holy shit, we're spending a lot of money on this actual silly challenge. I was supposed to just start out. And the deal was, if you lost one of those cards, you had to shout everyone the round.
Whoa.
So everyone was like sort of being a bit willy-nilly at the start. I'm like, you lose that card, you shout everyone the whole round. There was like 30 of us in the group, so it got pretty serious. And then it just got a little bit like too hard. I was like, this is ridiculous. So look, I fell one short. It was a very fun challenge because it did push you out to pubs. The idea was, if you haven't heard it, is that trying to drink every varietal of Coopers, which was 22, on tap, and you had to drink it on tap at a different pub. So if you had one at one pub, that was it. You couldn't go back there and drink another. So you got to be strategic of where you used them. So if you saw like a super rare one, and then they had like a really common one there, and some guys just blew the common one first night at the really
rookie
rare
mistake.
Like, rookie. I'm like, dude, you're done. Leave the common one for the end. Leave the common one for the airport. Snap that off on your way home.
To the non-Australian listeners, Cooper's is an amazing brewery and beer, and I loved it. But it's actually something that I think it should be a big export. Mitch is showing us Cooper's. He's got one on the go right now.
It's a leftover.
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock where we are, so no Coopers yet. But it got me thinking, actually, Coopers should be a bigger export. We want to know what you think Australia's greatest export is in anything.
Yeah, could be Natalie and Imbruglia, could be,
Well, Foster's has got to be up there, doesn't it?
But you guys don't drink Foster's, do you?
Yeah, we just exported it.
Okay, you've taken it very literally. Yeah, I like it. Because to me, it has to be Kylie and Jason. They're Australia's greatest export.
Well, I did think it was maybe a cyclist. Who's our biggest cyclist that we've exported?
God, it wouldn't be.
got a lot of
It's not
hitters.
Cuddles, I'll tell you that.
He's back. He's back. Where I'm actually right now, he's somewhere around in the vicinity.
Cadell Evans is in your vicinity right now.
He's lurking.
He's in spit distance from me now.
Yeah.
Better be careful what we say then.
Can smell him.
The Life in the Peloton audience in Australia might be interested to know that Kylie and Jason are still really big in the UK. In Bristol, the city where I'm recording, where I live in the UK, the most famous doner kebab van in Bristol is called the Jason Doner van. And they have the Jason burger, which has both chicken and beef in it. There you go, a little bit of pop tribute for you.
They weren't sure what he liked.
Yeah. Well, just bang it all in.
All right, more serious question now, Mitch. Because the whole point of this is you ask so many questions on your pod, but we know your audience want to know about you. So what if you hadn't been a bike rider?
I tell you what, it is nice being on the flip side. You can just sit back here, suck a cold one back, and just watch you guys sweat it out on the other side.
Enjoy.
What was my next question? Holy shit, what am I doing? I did get my degree in nutrition. Like, would I have been a nutritionist in a lab, or a dietitian? Come in. I don't think I ever would have. I don't know what that idea was, but I always had this fantasy of owning my own pub or my own brewery. In more recent days, like the last sort of 10 years, I would have loved to have a brewery, brew beer. Even like a little bar. And everyone dreams of having a cafe, but I don't think I'd want to do cafe. I think it's got to be pub.
Yeah.
Love to be a publican behind the bar, hearing the stories, rolling the kegs in, tapping kegs.
Yeah.
It's not too late.
No, yeah, get on it.
It's not. It's not. One of my good mates in Lenny is the publican of Lansfield Hotel. He moved in the same year we did, and he's a Parramatta Eels fan, so it works very well.
Ideal. I don't know why, but I could sort of see you as a fireman.
I haven't. I've
uniform?
considered it in the last few years.
Yeah.
It pays well, and you get heaps of time off.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't actually finish there. I meant a fireman in the Village People. Or how about... I also thought maybe the moustache...
My dancing isn't that good. If I could dance that well...
Oh, yeah. You could bring that into
It's
pub
quite
life as
simple.
well.
There's only 4 moves. I was also thinking maybe the moustache double for Tom Selleck. That would have been a great alternative career.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I could have been... who's F1 driver? British.
Lewis Hamilton.
Epic Mo.
Oh, you're talking about Nigel Mansell.
Nigel.
Classic, yeah.
There we go.
I was thinking modern there, and then I realised that we're all of a relatively similar vintage, and so, yeah, good old Nigel.
Big Nige.
Great name as well, great name.
To be fair to the viewers, you won't know what Stuart looks like. He also, I'm joined by 2 fantastic Mo's. So you'll have to imagine Stu's. It's a bit like walrus whiskers on a handsome Scotsman. That's what you're going to have to imagine, I would say.
Well, just briefly going back to when you got your haircut, Mitch, at the Tour Down Under when we saw you last, after you chipped off with speed stripes, your man shaved my beard off. I was inspired in the moment. I was also delirious with jet lag. I didn't know where I was at that point. It feels like bedtime, but it's really hot. I don't know what's going on.
Shave my beard off.
Yeah. What other mistakes can I make in this moment? But it wasn't a mistake. It looked great. You inspired me.
Okay, Mitch, another serious question. What was the highest point of your career?
It's hard to actually pinpoint one thing. I thought 15th at Roubaix, when I think back on it, even though I did that in 2011, it was arguably my best result. Because the thing that result did was it kept me hopeful for my whole career. Oh my God, I got 15th in my second year pro. Oh, wins easy. Like, this is just going to happen. Just let it come. And I kept going for it. I feel like if you never got a result like that sort of, or if I never got a result that sort of made me believe it could possibly happen, you sort of eventually go, this race is bullshit. Screw this race off. But I'm like, no, I was pretty close one time. It's going to happen. So I think for me, that was a real highlight because it really set up my whole career and the love for the race. But one of the other highlights for me was winning a Triple T at the Giro in Belfast with the team there. And I was sort of a late inclusion, did a job, and we were up on the podium. It was such a party up there on that podium. And we had the whole race ahead, and we were partying like it was over that night. We're sucking those massive bottles of champagne down, spraying each other down. It's like, yeah, we won. And just being up there with all my mates.
Yeah.
Like literally everyone except for maybe one, I was pretty close with in Girona and hanging out with, and we just won a race. So it was such a cool feeling to be up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sort of all went downhill after that, didn't it?
Well, speaking of that, what would you say what was the lowest point of your career?
It's hard to look past the Roubaix crash. 2016 crash there when Heyman won. So it's sort of like, oh, damn, I wasn't there when my teammate won. Obviously the crash and coming back from that. But again, like there were a lot of positives in that. I really feel like that shaped my career again because it just sort of literally shook me and woke me up. I was like, hey, you've got this thing here. Do you want it or not?
Really?
So,
it forced you to question things about how much you want it because of the severity of it.
I think, because I realised that there was a lot of people on the ride with me, family, really close supporters, and they were affected by the crash. And it made me realise, hey, there's a lot of people involved with this. It's not just me. And you feel like sometimes it is just you. You're like, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter if I crash and break my arm, who cares? It's me, But then I was really like, oh, this really affects everyone. And then I understood, hey, if you're going to do this from that moment on, seriously do it properly now. Not that I wasn't, but I sort of just fell into just chipping away at it. I had the same program, I was just doing it, and I was like, nah, I'm seriously doing this. And I felt like that's what gave me another 5-6 years from there. And I felt like I was potentially could be one or two.
Yeah.
I really just woke me up. I was like,
that's really interesting. I mean, being a pro cyclist is not a career to be taken lightly, is it? With the injuries and the crashes, you just see so many people with scarred faces, scarred bodies. That I like. We're British, so obviously we really like Teo Geoghegan-Hart, and I mean the injuries he's had recently. I just think, oh man, it's so heavy, isn't it? Well, it can be.
Look at Van Baal.
Yeah.
Dylan Van Baal now. This is like 3 years in a row, and I'm questioning that you got to just rack it. But like, you just want to go out in his own terms. It's like, nah, I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Who's your favourite rider of all time and why?
It's got to be Jan Ullrich for me.
Yeah.
Great answer.
It's just because he was so influential for me. That was like when I was just getting into it, and that battle was on. And I loved... He never really did interviews in English, so I couldn't have really liked his personality. Like, who knows what he was like. But just everything, the way he rode the bike, the underdog, the panache, isn't he? The weight loss, and he just looked so good. He was so strong, the way he rode. And then that, for me, the thing that just made me like go, he was undoubtedly like awesome, was Bianchi came back and put Lance to the sword in that time trial. And I was just like, oh yeah, suck it, Lance. There you go. This is it. And it was so cool. And then to really, really clinch it for me was last year at the Tour. I came around the corner, didn't expect it. I was at the Roulette Mini Live thing in Italy, and Jan was there. And we came up, and I was like, I can't hold back. I've just got to do it. I was just like, Jan, it was just like full fan moment.
Yeah.
Great to meet you. And then like I shook his hand just like sort of how I normally do, and he's like, ooh, you're strong. Form is there. And I was just like, yes.
You had one of those moments with Taffy as well, didn't you, a few years back?
It did. Taffs for me has become my favourite in more recent years, but I never really watched him as I was growing up. Yeah. I sort of only learnt about him afterwards, whereas I got to witness Jan in the moment. The only thing I missed from Jan was riding with him and being in the peloton. I was still there when he was racing, but I never raced him. But imagine being behind him and following him and seeing his legs. And Taffy, I got to do that, which was really cool. And Taffs, we were riding, and he came up to me in this little bunch in the back of Italy. We were just doing a training ride with EF because of Alberto Bettiol, actually. And he came up to me, and he could see I think Bet said I was a big fan. And he came to me and goes, hey, where you go, huh? And I was like, what? And he was already in the big ring, so I had to go up to the big ring. We're on a climb. He didn't have a small ring, I think. There's one big. And we just attacked big ring over the top of the bunch. I was like, yes. I'm with the big man.
that's
It was a really
amazing.
cool moment. It felt like back in the 90s.
Did you have a tune playing in
it
your head?
was
Was there like a theme song playing in your head when that
Enter the danger zone.
It was actually the Life in the Peloton theme music just going.
happened? Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant.
It's just
Iconic.
on constant play in the back of your line.
For those moments,
We are Brits, of course. You've just given us your favourite rider of all time. Who's your favourite British rider of all time? And why is it Tom Southam?
I got to race with Southern, but never saw him in his prime. Only heard stories.
It was
about
very
it.
short-lived.
He came back to Australia. And I was like, "Who the hell's this guy?" You know, he joined Drapac and didn't really give him much credit. And then started learning who he was and actually seeing how good he was. I was like, "Oh, this guy's really good, annoyingly good." I was like, "Oh, he was actually pro." And I was like, "Oh, right, that's why he's good." Because he was pretty elusive when he first came back to Australia. He just sort of packed up shop and came back. Southern's up there for sure. He's a brilliant guy, as you guys know.
Arguably still in his prime, I would say.
He's just as good.
Yeah.
I know. For 2 hours,
That's
take him over 2. You got it.
yeah.
I can't test that theory anymore. But back when I was racing, I used to be able to go, "Righto, bud, let's go for a big one," and he would always keep the loops inside 60 K. That is. I really like Steve-O. Steve Cummings. I love the way he raced and getting to race with him. And he was a great guy in the bunch. His wins were so epic. Just phenomenal. Just the confidence he had to know when his day was his day and just fully commit to it. And the rest of the time was like, "Cool, I'm out." And then when he became a DS, there was a really cool moment. I was in Route du Sud, one of my last years, and in one of his first, even my last year, I think it was. And he was his first year as a DS. And I was just getting dagged off the back of the Tourmalet, and I could see the bunch. There was a group out way back. Didn't want to go back with them. I just want to be with a bunch. You know, I'd done so much. It was 2K to go. And Steve-O came up, and he's just in the Ineos car or Sky car at that moment. I'm in EF, so no need to help me. He's like, "Hey, Mitchy." You know, it's so easy in the car. You're just like on the limit on Steve-O. He goes, "You'd like a bottle, wouldn't you?" I'm like, "Yes, I would." And he just had the bottle. He's like, "Back you go, boy." And I was just like, straight back to the grid. I'm like, "You absolutely." So it was a really cool moment. Another one, I've got to squeeze him in. Another one is I loved Yogi too.
Oh, really? Yeah, a little bit of a classics
Yeah.
icon. Ian Stannard.
That win against the 3 quick step guys in the classics was just like, do not mess around with Yogi there.
That's got to be
he
one
just
of the
took him
great
to town.
classics wins, hasn't it? And the same way with Cummings.
Opening weekend,
When Cummings beat the 2 French guys, was it Pinot and Bardet to win his tour stage? Oh man, amazing!
He was off the
Yeah.
back. He just rode so calm up the climb. And I've spoken to him about this. He knew. He goes, no, I just knew the amount of, and whether this is bullshit or not, but I believe it. It's like, no, I knew how much I had to ride up that climb, and I just stuck to my pace. Probably would have been pace. Wouldn't have been what's with Steve-O. Would have just been like pacing his own legs, you know. And Ian Stannard, you've got Boonen, you've got Terpstra, and you had
Absolute hitters.
the big tall guy,
Stein. Vandenberg, yeah.
Vandenberg, and he just covered it, and went off. It was opening weekend, Umlaupet Newsblad. To beat those guys in the opening weekend in their own turf was just, it was epic. They're my 2 I love those guys. I think because I got to know them really well. I didn't really know Wigo. I really liked that he was able to sort of do everything. Cav, you know, obviously his results speak for himself, but I think the personal stuff for me is what makes him top them.
It's a shame that Stannard never got that. He was so close to Roubaix. Remember, he was sprinting for the win once. He kind of was a rider that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, he got. Well, I only remember because I had a fiver on him at 66-1, so I thought I was going to be quids in. I think he came second behind Boonen. Obviously, we're super happy to be part of the Life in the Peloton family now. You can't believe it's your 10th year. I mean, you're a trailblazer, Mitch. We want to know though, who are the best guests that come to mind immediately?
Wow. Tom Boonen. That was one I said for a long time. Everyone, sort of after a couple of years, And I was, in the very beginning, I was a bit nervous about asking people, you know. It was just more friends and people I knew really personally. And the first one I did, someone that I was a bit intimidated by, well, pretty intimidated by in the interview, was David Miller. It was a big name. I wanted to ask him about his doping history, and you know, obviously it was really easy when it was up and going, but that was the first one. And the next one, well, many others, I thought in the back of my mind, I really wanted to talk to Tom Boonen. Took many, many years and a lot of trying. And when we eventually got it lined up, we were actually together in Belgium. I wanted to do it in person because I thought, there's like us now. Look at us online trying to make it happen. No, but as you know, when you're in person, it's just fun.
Yeah.
You're just sitting back, the contact's so good. So I was like, I'm not ruining that one unless I get it in person. And the opportunity came to do it at his house. It's pretty cheeky even asking.
I remember you rented a car just to do it, and then you came back and you were buzzing.
Yeah. I felt there was lots more I could have done with it. I could have done more interviewing. I had so much more questions. I could have done a talking with him. I could have filmed in his house. But I just wanted to keep it very respectful and go, thank you so a lot for your time. I think it was an hour. He showed me around his house. It was really cool, and he was a really cool guy. The rocks, as I came in the entrance, were there on display. I couldn't imagine it any other way, honestly. I didn't know what to expect, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, of course.
This is all I hope for.
But like, there's been heaps over the years. I really love talking to Lael Wilcox. She's one of the only ones I've been able to cross over the internet barrier with and feel like I was in the same room with her.
Nice.
She was just so relaxed, and one of my most favourite interviews. The first time I spoke to her, I didn't know her at all. Sort of a cold connection, and we just kicked it off straight away. And 2 minutes into it, I felt like I knew her so well, and it was really fun. And you know, of course, I absolutely love talking to Durbo. He's one of my best mates, and the fun we have on the pod is just so good.
Yeah, I mean, the communique. We're biased. We can't say this anymore, Harry, but the communique is the best cycling podcast there is, I think.
I want to just take my moment to claim I came up with the name The Communiquiz. If that's not a reason to sign us to Life in the Peloton for a year's podcast, I don't know what is.
We gave you credit for about 3 seconds in one episode.
That's all he needs. 3 seconds is more than enough.
Well, also, Durbo, if you're listening, it's Pelo Talk, not Pelo Chat. That was my idea as well. Because Pelo Talk is a play on pillow. Oh, I don't know why I'm spelling this out. It's Pillow Talk. We want to hear the Pillow Talk from the Peloton, not the Pelo Chat. Fuck's sake.
I suppose it depends on how the previous activities have gone, whether it's a chat or a talk.
Mitch, you've been retired 3 years. Like, it's a classic thing in professional sport where it can be very difficult for pros to leave the world behind and start their second life. Has it been hard adapting to life after racing?
Yeah, it has been. For me, it's understanding where I really sit, you know, because you do get wrapped up in the moment, especially at Tour Down Under, and you remember all these old faces, and people start to remember you, and then you're like, well, hang on a sec, I'm not racing anymore. So you do get carried away every so often. The thing that's really kept me grounded, I think, and actually allowed me to sort of find out again who I am away from pro cycling is where I moved to. The infamous Lansfield, which I talk about in every other podcast, is just great because, you know, cycling is, no one up there, as far as I know, is a cyclist. There's a couple of people who ride casually. There's a couple of guys who ride mountain bikes. There's a handful of cyclists in the town. There's a couple of thousand people who live there. But it's a footy town, it's a cricket town, and I love that, you know, because the cycling talk is just a very quick conversation, and I like it like that. So that's been really sort of healthy, I think, for me, because I do get my fix everywhere else. I've got the podcast, you know, doing a little bit of commentary. When we're doing the GCN stuff, really they're travelling across. So there's enough of that. I don't need to live in, say, a Girona where you're just really immersed in it. Because I think it would just be really difficult to step away from that life. You'd just still be living the old shadow. And it is a constant thought in mind, like, where is the next step? Am I going to keep following this train that I've been on for the last few years, which I have enjoyed? But I think that the writing side of things, I think, is where it does get a little less for me now. I think going to events and, I say trying to race people, it's just, that's all me. No one's ever said to me, go to this event and race it, or someone's come to me, I'm going to beat you. It's just me. As soon as I get there, I'm like, I'm going to beat that guy. Screw that. I'm not getting dropped.
Right.
So that's maybe where I probably am slightly a little bit over now after a couple of years of getting mixing it up and doing things like that. I still have competitive stuff where it's in park run or, trying to beat myself up.
Or the Cooper's Challenge.
Strava or whatever, but yeah, the Cooper's Challenge, exactly.
Yeah, you can't retire. You can't retire.
I am beer fit at the moment, that is for sure.
Got good beer legs.
It's been a big pre-season in the beer front.
You mentioned Lansfield. I wondered if you could sort of paint a bit of a picture for us of what life is like for you at home. You talked about the riding, but what's Lansfield like? Why should we move there?
Yeah, and also what's family life like? Tell your listeners about Lids and the gang.
Well, yeah, I've got my wife Lydia, who is a massive supporter, and I think it's been somewhat confusing for her since retiring because it is still very busy. And it's like, well, I thought we were retiring. I thought we were moving back to Australia and I'm still travelling if not more than when I was racing. Mm. It has been an adjustment for everyone. And we had our third child when we moved back. A big reason why we did move back, it was just like, well, what are we doing here in Spain with kids, without the grandparents? So we all live in Lansfield. My son, Marlo, my daughter, Esther, they're starting school on Friday. Well, Marlo's already been at school for a couple of years. Esther's starting school. Mm-hmm. So we've got two at primary school, which is just across the road from us. We walk them up. I walk them up every other day. And our youngest, Sadie, she's heading off to childcare for a couple of days this year. So it's going to free my wife up a little bit more. I work from home. The Life in the Peloton studio is in the front room there. But we are setting up a new studio in the main street of Lansfield, believe it or not. A spot has come available.
You can have
the Life in the Peloton studios. It's real.
Little Cooper's tap.
No, not in Victoria.
Of course. Faux pas.
Tell us, Mitch, something
yeah.
that the viewers, listeners might not know about you, like something that you're into, cricket. Is there a new band, a new hobby? Because we know you're a man of many great passions, so tell us something new, something that's getting you going.
One thing I love being in Lansfield. Lansfield's a cold place. It's a cold, sort of wet, miserable place. I'm not really painting the picture, but it is what it is. It's 400 metres in altitude, so Melbourne can get pretty miserable and cold in winter, and then -4 degrees in Lansfield. So, but it's an open fireplace. You've got a roaring open fire, and I'm loving the novelty of that because I think we lived for 15 years more or less summer to summer. Mm-hmm. We had caught the back end of winter in Europe when we came across in spring, so we never really did the full seasonal shift. And I'm loving that in Lansfield, and I'm getting sounds weird. I'm getting big into firewood and getting out there and getting my own firewood, got my chainsaws. Originally I was out there poaching it because I didn't realise I was taking wood from areas I wasn't allowed to. And then when I did know that, I was still doing it. And then I realised, this is dicey. And then just, I love it. I get all my wood back home, saw it up, and then, then the splitting starts. And it sometimes can be like a workout, and sometimes it can be therapeutic. You're like, Lydia might just go to me, go split some wood, and split some fucking wood. So I just get out there and just splitting away. It's very therapeutic. So I really love that in the winter, and I speak to locals, and they're like, "What's wrong with you, man? Just buy wood," because they've had it their whole life, and they're over it. So I like the game.
Got to earn it through the sweat of your own brow.
You do.
I'm with you on that one. So a new season for you there. If you could only drink one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be?
This is a massive question. Because you got to take into, you got to think about this realistically. And you want to have a cleanser, more or less, 5-6 days a week. You come home, you want to crack one,
Yeah.
So it can't be like an Orval.
Yeah.
Because it's literally one.
Yeah, can you imagine?
And... yeah,
too heavy, too complex. You want something
too
fresh.
Sometimes just you want to sometimes you just want a working beer. You've just been splitting wood.
Yeah.
You want to just as you just in between splitting logs, just pull the top off an Orval, suck it out of the bottle. No,
No way.
you know, like
So refreshing.
or
Pour
get
it
the
on your
glass
head.
out. You want to crack a can and have it frothing out the top and suck away. I really did enjoy when I was in Spain drinking. We called them like the Red Armies, you know, Estrella.
Estrella, yeah.
I really love that, but that is not it. It's going to be sort of around that mark. In Melbourne, I'm really enjoying the Melbourne bitters. So it's probably going to be that. It's a big caller. I don't know if I could drink Melbourne bitter for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's kind of
a huge call.
It's a bit of a trick question, that, because I appreciate you can't really. It's a bit like when someone says one food, you're like, I can't pick one food. That's crazy.
I love how you sort of teased out that answer. You're keeping us on tenterhooks. Great. Mitch, you've been at the Tour Down Under women's and men's races the last week and a bit. How's it been? What have you seen that you liked? Any thoughts on the racing?
I really enjoyed a couple things. A couple of things that I thought were interesting. They've got all these new rules now, and we saw Denny Van Poppel get the first yellow card in the men's peloton for arguably actually a pretty good job in the lead out. I thought, oh, nice. Shut the door on that one. He got the yellow card. I loved what he was doing, Danny. He sort of found his groove the last few years after sort of being in a bit of trying to be a sprinter, then going to Sky, losing his way a little bit. Now he's come back, and he was great last year too, but this year he's sort of primo. So I really loved watching him. And for an Aussie, I loved Chris Harper. Like, he dominated there. He was awesome. And the job he did for Luke Plapp is arguably stronger than Plapp. Yeah. So he was awesome. I sort of thought Plappy might have done more. He tried. You can't fault him trying, but he just sort of strategically maybe just didn't have the right way to win it. You know, he was just trying to ride everyone off his wheel. Maybe he was the strongest, but everyone was just watching him. So I didn't really answer your question in that way. But I thought it was quite a good race. This Notts Hill, unfortunately, wasn't, even though I guess it produced the winner, so maybe it was as good as I thought. I thought it was just going to explode there, and there was going to be like 3 guys at the top, and everyone's going to be clawing their way up. But
I thought it was still a good stage, though, that one.
I think Stewie did a really good job in the 25th edition. I love seeing the inclusion of the original finish circuit. I love finish there. Like, that for me felt like a down under finish. For the riders, it's nice. You know, you've got this circuit race, Wollonga. You can sort of mentally relax and have still a hard race. It's a great way to finish a stage race.
Agreed. On Plappy, I mean, we love him. What character? He's so positive. He's such a champion, you know. What Durbo was talking about him and the Aussie Nationals last week, it's just like, it's great. We got one last question. You've obviously been, you know, you're a working man now. Not that being a pro isn't working, but what's a harder week's work? Doing what you've been doing at the Tour Down Under, you know, going from event to event, commentating, doing live pods and so on, or actually racing the Tour Down Under?
Definitely what I did. Definitely. It's a big week. It's a fun week, but I did not sit still. My own fault, because I got to, like, I'd be up in the morning riding some rides or doing my own little ride or exercise. Then you'd understand the race, go out to the race, do some interviews, come back, do the live pod or commentary or whatever I was doing. And you'd sort of get to like 7, 8 o'clock at night and you'd be like, I just need a beer. Like, seriously, it's been one of those days. And you sort of, that rolls into, 5, 6 or 7, 8, 9 beers. And you're like, all right, next morning you're dusty and you're like, cool. Got that out of the system? Definitely not today. And literally you get through the day and you get to like 7, 8 o'clock. You're like, oh man, that was such a bitch of a day. Just need a couple cold ones. And you can see where this is going. So by the time you get to the end of the week, you're like, all right, I am completely done.
On the plus side, you can now put away 15 and not feel it though, right?
Got the beer legs.
Like I said, I'm beer fit. I'm taking a bit of an off season now. Just sort of tapering off.
Nice taper.
One tonight.
So, sparkling water.
Then to a bit of an off.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to say goodbye, Mitch, because now we're going to give the audience a little bit of a flavour of what race radio usually is, away from interviews, which is just me and Stu talking about the racing. But thank you so much for coming on. Yeah. We hope the audience have liked hearing a little bit more you on the other side of the mic.
Thanks, boys. It's been great, and I'm really, really looking forward to the series kicking off. Good luck, boys. I'll be listening.
Thank you.
Here we go.
That was great fun. Great fun. Thank you, Mitch.
Wasn't it just a shame about the time difference? I would have quite liked a Cooper's myself, but it's 9 o'clock in the morning here, so it's not appropriate.
Cooper's pale coffee. Yeah.
I mean, it's all about the collabs these days. I reckon you could get a coffee bean hops type thing going on.
Totally. We hope you guys really enjoyed listening to that. I think it's pretty cool to hear Mitch show himself rather than be the one that asked the questions. I loved hearing it myself.
The man, the myth, the legend, live on the mic. But the tables turned. You know, Harry and I were big fans of cycling, but we like to come at it from weird angles. We like to mix the context up a little bit. So, you know, straight from Down Under, we're going to talk about the Tour Down Under.
Yeah, this is Life in the Peloton's race radio. This is more of an idea of what our usual episodes might be like. It's important for you guys to know that we're not journalists, we're not pros, we're not ex-pros. We just love the sport and we like the weird sides of it, and it's all about having a fun. So we might make some mistakes. Please don't corrections corner us, because that's not what we're really about here on. I mean,
you can corrections corner if you want to, but yeah, we're just two best friends with an insatiable appetite for pro cycling.
That's great. That's like an AI description of a B-rate movie.
Great. Shall we talk about the Tour Down Under, Harry?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, we get a bit of... It's nice to get a bit of sunshine at this time of year when it's grey and cold and rainy in the UK. But it's also a time to see new stars rising as well, isn't it?
Yeah, new stars shining bright. I actually love that about the Tour Down Under. Especially in recent years, it's been a place where we see guys who, you know, the real keen fans might already know about them, but it's where I feel like, you know, Jay Vine won a few years ago and then he went on to do really good things. Stevie Williams last year, breakout star, and then he won Flesh Wallon. It's like it's quite cool to see them. Isaac Del Toro as well. I remember his win last year, and this year we had Javier Romo. I bet not many people knew who he was. I'm into him, Stu. What do you think? What's your first impression?
Very Euro, isn't he? I mean, I love the sort of tiny little mullet he had going on there. That felt appropriate for being at the Tour Down Under. It's a shame he didn't have the moustache, which is mandatory, I'd argue. But yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Because his mullet is... He's in the land of mullets, but it's not like Aussie. There's something about those Spanish-style mullets. They're very spiky, aren't they? I don't know how they do it. They don't have the sort of the volume that a Dr. mullet might have.
Yeah, manages to be very neat. It's kind of like a mullet if it was made office appropriate, I suppose.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think there's a bit of a cult hero in the making in Javier Romo, because he doesn't really look like other riders. Like, you see how muscular he is. Wasn't he? I think he was a triathlete, and so that's maybe where that comes from. But I think there's a bit of a movie star vibe about him. Get it? But seriously, I could see him doing his own stunts. I don't know, maybe attacking at the bottom of Wollonga Hill and trying desperately to hold on, like he's Tom Cruise holding onto the side of a plane.
Equally, we might never see him again. I suppose it's you never can tell with the Tour Down Under. That's fun,
true.
Because we did see the return to well, I mean, I suppose in terms of the road, we did see the return to power of Sam Welsford.
Yeah, and he kind of didn't do much after he did the same thing last year, so that'd be interesting to see. I love Sam Welsford though. Yeah. I mean, he's such a great character. He's just... Did you see? There was a real classic of the Tour Down Under genre. There was the mum interview where Matt Keenan was interviewing Sam, and then suddenly the mum just sort of thrust into the shot. Did you see that? It was great.
Brilliant. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love the Tour Down Under, is because I think, if anything, you could say that cycling takes itself a bit too seriously sometimes. And certainly as you kind of get into the calendar proper, it sort of gets more and more serious. But the Tour Down Under is a bit fun, it's a bit different, and you get the mum. Last year, Sam Welsford Gran even appeared in one of, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. That's what we want. We want more
relatives of Sam Welsford on camera.
Yeah.
The thing that I thought was great is she even referred to him by his nickname, the Wombat. Like, I love that. I think it's amazing.
What are wombats known for? Why is Sam Welsford's nickname the Wombat?
Well, I actually looked this up. They're muscular, they're short-legged, they've got stocky bodies, and short tails, which I believe Sam has all of those things.
They also like to eat the tree bark and the roots of shrubs, apparently. So
I can imagine him doing that.
he doesn't strike. I mean, he's a beefy boy. He doesn't strike me as a herbivore, but I can imagine that he does spend 3 to 8 hours grazing each night. So.
I really hope he steps up and really can do it in Europe this season. I think he can. He's great guy.
We'll put money on that now. We'll probably regret doing it, but I mean, no Olympics this year, so his focus will be, I imagine, on the road.
Yeah.
Who else did we see was new? Naomi Rugg?
Yeah. She's brilliant. A little rocket, the winner of the women's race. Did you see after the final stage? There was great. The best bit for me in racing is always like those moments, often after the stage, when the cameras are filming the riders, and she was like in pure shock or disbelief, like she just couldn't believe she'd done it. I thought that's so endearing. You don't get that in the men's peloton. Like Exactly. And I was really impressed by the rider who came second behind her, young rider, Silke Smulders.
Great name.
Great name. I was thinking she sounds a bit like a James Bond villain. Silke Smulders. Although maybe it's a bit Austin Powers. I don't know.
It's or X-Files if we throw it real far back. It's like Mulder and Scully combined.
Who else did we see that we liked? I mean, it must be weird for you, Stu, as a Scotsman, to have a Scotsman to get behind who's really good. Oscar Onley.
Not just there, but actually in the mix. It's nice. It's nice, yeah.
He's amazing. What classy rider.
I've been meaning to check if he has a fan club yet, and if he doesn't, I'm going to start one. So yeah,
maybe we should do that on Race Radio. We could,
Oscar Onley. We'll do some bed sheets, maybe hot water bottle cover, because I mean he's from Kelso, so it gets quite cold down in the borders.
He came second on the Wollonga stage, and that was actually, you probably don't, you might not have twigged this, Stu. That was on Burns night.
Correct. Yeah.
On Saturday.
So haggis for tea for Oscar. Well,
luckily for you, Stu, I've actually written an address to Oscar Onley. To our listeners that aren't aware, on Burns night, traditionally, you have a haggis supper. I mean, Stu, you should be saying, being the Scotsman, what happens on Burns night?
What does happen on Burns night? We're not supposed to talk about it. That's the first rule of Burns night is we don't. No. Yeah, every year on the 25th of January. Is it a celebration of the haggis? It's more of a celebration of Scotland's national poet, Robbie Burns. There's a poem that is read before the dinner begins, because you get your friends together, you have a few whiskies, and then you eat a thing called haggis, which I'm sure most people have heard about. I'm not going to describe that. It's actually delicious, and there's a poem that's read, the address to the haggis.
And for our audience's questionable enjoyment, I have written an address to Oscar Onley in homage.
It could well just be an address to haggis, because Oscar Onley and the haggis have a few kind of characteristics in common, I suppose.
Well, let's see where we go. Can we queue up some bagpipes, please?
Yeah. Bit of mist rolling in, imagine that.
I'm going to have to apologise for my Scottish accent, but I'm going to go for it. Fair far, you wheels o' Fleetfoot night, you king of climbs, you stage race sprite. Frae borders lanes to Alps' great height, you've shown us flair, a pasty Scot now scorched and bright beneath sun's glare. Ah, Willunga Hill, that fateful night when Burns was toasted, bikes took flight. Through roasting air, you showed your might on roads that blister. You fought to second, pure delight. You climbed like mist, sir. The peloton watched, their faces puce as Oscar surged with legs let loose. They're nae Scots Watts, the locals muse, but we all ken it's haggis fuel that lights the fuse and keeps you zen. Yon tour down under brought you fame, frae frigid hills to scorching flame, but still you're humble, aye the same. A modest soul, with sweat and salt to carve your name on cycling scroll. So raise a dram to Oscar's power, frae Scotland's mist to Wollonga's hour. May winds rain doon in golden shower, and fortune's bounty. Here's to your legs and sunscreen's glower. On ye, Onley. God, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was brilliant. That was brilliant. I think I've got a stitch.
There you
Well
go.
done.
That was an address to Oscar Onley. Let's see if we can somehow get that to him.
So if you've never been to a burn supper, that's basically what it's about. You carry the haggis in on a silver plate as well, and we could do that to. I mean, if he's up for it next year, maybe Oscar. If you're not at the Tour Down Under, we could, or maybe we could be at the Tour Down Under. We could carry you in on a silver plate, and Harry could do that live. He should know it off the top of his head by then if he gets practicing. Beautiful, well done.
God, I'm out of breath now. There's a feature I want to bring in as a regular on Life in the Peloton's race radio, Stu. It's something that we tried to get going on our YouTube series 6 Wheel 6 years ago and failed miserably. So let's see if we can. Let's see if it's still shit. It's the Musette of Regret. So as you guys might know, the Musette is obviously the little cotton bag that pro cyclists keep their lunch in. Yeah. But the Musette of Regret is where we want to, in a Room 101 style, banish things that we don't like.
Yeah, rubbish stuff.
Yeah, and I've got something, Stu. Do you want to hear what it is?
I do want to hear what it is. What are we putting in the cotton sack?
So watching the Tour Down Under this year, on all the sprint stages, they had one of those sort of fixed finish line cameras that's about 500, 600 meters to go. It's kind of a wide shot, and it's great for the millisecond that the peloton ride past, but then I think the TV director is like, right, I need to get the money's worth of someone rigging this camera, and so they let the peloton whoosh past, but it is literally the most important part of the sprint. The lead outs are all dropping their men off the sprints and starting, and you're like, I just want to see the sprint. It's literally on a sprint stage, you don't need to watch any of the first 4 hours, you just need that 1 minute, and they don't even give us it in full.
I want to follow the action.
What do you think? Is that a worthy inclusion?
Do it. Fixed finish line cameras in the bag.
I was thinking, like, wouldn't it? The Champs-Élysées stage of the Tour, when they get the motorbike that drives along, they create a little lane for the motorbike with the camera to go alongside. Like, that's some of the most epic shots.
Good. Yeah.
But I was thinking, what about if they created a little rail alongside the barriers, like in greyhound racing, and fixed the camera to that? Now that would be
with
good.
a little wombat on top.
Yeah, there you go. There's something for Sam Welsford to chase. Nice. So let us know what you think about those fixed cameras. Do you like them? Do you think they give a little bit of excitement to the race or not? And also, do you have any suggestions for the Musette of Regret? Drop us a line, raceradiopod@gmail.com, or drop a comment at Life in the Peloton.
Musette of Regret.
Should we finish up, Stu? We've actually got a genuine star on the pod this week.
Yeah. I mean, we like to go to races, but sometimes we can't go to all of them. But we have insight from the race itself in various guises, and this episode is brought to you by none other than Canada's second best cyclist. He wouldn't thank me for saying that.
Yeah, we actually have a top 10 finisher. We can't guarantee we'll be getting you a top 10 finisher every time on Race Radio. But yeah, Mike Woods, he's sent us some voice notes in our field dispatch section of Race Radio. Over to you, Mike.
Michael Woods.
How has the Tour Down Under changed since you first raced it?
The Tour Down Under has changed dramatically since I first did it in 2016. 10 years ago, the level of the peloton was still quite strong, but it wasn't like it is today. I've really noticed with the relegation system, as well as just the way the peloton has evolved, everybody shows up to this race pretty much fit. The level's so high that even on the big defining features of the race, there's still very large groups getting over because everyone's just so fit, so motivated, and the teams are so focused on the points race.
Who is more Canadian? Is it you or is it Derek G?
That's a tough question. I've lived abroad for longer than Derek, just because I've been a pro for longer than he has, but also having gone to school in the States. Maybe Derek in that sense, just because he's been in Canada for a longer stint than I have. We're both quite Canadian in a lot of respects, both bilingual, both come from the national capital region. Yeah, we're both very stereotypically Canadian, I'd say. Very diplomatic, both apologize a lot, both easy to get along with. Hard to say, but maybe I'll give Derek the nod just because he's been in Canada for longer. But I'm a proud Canadian and love the country, and I don't know. I'll put up a good fight with him.
You're 38, which, as we all know, is 76 in World Tour years. So how does it feel to have all these teenagers in the peloton now?
you do feel your age for sure. From a physiological perspective, I'm still putting out great numbers. I think I'm still competitive at the highest level, but I have noticed that my metabolism is slowing down a bit. It's harder for me to shed weight, and I don't bounce back from things as quickly as I used to. But yeah, no, still very motivated, and I think I feel really lucky to be racing in the World Tour still at the age that I'm at, because my colleagues are so young. I'm finding it does keep me young. I think it's important to surround yourself with guys who have lots of good energy and are excited about life and excited about the world around them. And I really draw a lot of inspiration from the younger guys and get motivated by the younger guys. So, I love it. In some aspects, I dislike it, just because when you're under 25, your prefrontal cortex hasn't fully developed, and your ability to understand and manage risk is dramatically reduced. And you notice that in the peloton. But yeah, all in all, it's great. I really like it, and hopefully I can continue in this for at least another year.
Tell us something you love about Mitch Docker.
I think my favorite part about Mitch Docker is his ability and his creativity around events and getting parties going, getting games going. He's a leader in a lot of senses, but particularly in fun. I love being teammates with him, because he was always the first guy to bring the Uno cards to the table, the first guy to suggest doing things outside the box that really kind of mesh the team together. Also, the guy who's responsible for this amazing ride that we do at the end of the season every year called the Girondo. He's behind a bunch of other things that were super important to a lot of guys living in the Andorra and Girona area. And I miss him for that. I miss him not being around for that, because he just brought a lot more fun to being a pro cyclist.
I guess we'll find out if he's a good team leader, won't we, Harry, for real? Because he's now our team leader. So, yeah, that, and I'm also now going to champion the Mitch Docker edition Uno cards. I wonder.
Two missions for us for the year: start the Oscar Only fan club and create a Mitch Docker branded Life in the Peloton Uno card game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a nice answer from Mike, because it also sums up what we're all about as well. And we hope you've had a bit of fun listening to the pod this week. We'll be back next month. And yeah, I think that's all there is to say from me, Harry, and you, Stu.
See you down the road.
See you later.
Here we go.
Let's take advantage of this.
I'm Mitch Docker, and this is Life in the Peloton's Race